And we're on. Introducing Shashwat Sehgal, co-founder and CEO at P0. How are you, mate?
I'm all right, thank you. How are things with you?
Yeah, I'm all good, my man. I'm all good. I know you said it's nice and early where you are.
Yep, nice and early start to the day. Hopefully, it's going to be another busy one, like it's been for the rest of the week. But looking forward to it.
Well, it looks like the sun's rising in your background, which is great news. So, hot off the back of RSA, mate. So I know you was in the top 10 RSA Sandbox finalists. How was that, man?
It was interesting. I've been attending RSA for 10 years now, and it was definitely my first time from the other side. Having attended each of the last 7 or 8 sandboxes, it was definitely a very different experience.
Yeah, yeah. What about actually delivering? Is it a 2 or 3 minute sort of elevator pitch on P0? Is that?
Eh, let me tell you this, right? However long it is, it feels a lot shorter than it actually is. I think it was 3 minutes, but the whole entire 3 minutes just went past in like 30 seconds.
Wow. And how many people was that delivered in front of? Do you have any idea of what the audience number was when you done that?
I think they told me something like I actually don't know now that
It's a
you
few
mentioned it.
thousand, right?
Definitely a few thousand.
Yeah.
But honestly, once you're up on the stage, you at least I don't know. I can't speak to the others, but for me at least, you just go into the zone, right?
Love
And
it.
then you lose track of everything that's happening around you.
Love it. Well, we're going to get in the zone for this podcast, man. I've been looking forward to this for a while, so I'm glad we finally got around to doing it. So look,
Yeah.
Sashwant, with all of my guests, before we go into your business and what you're up to, I like to find out a little bit about you and give the audience an idea of how you got into the industry, leading up to all the way of where you are right now.
Yep, absolutely.
Talk to me. Where did it all start?
Ugh, all right. It's start my journey within the tech industry started more than a decade ago. Um, Started off as an engineer and gradually found my way to on the business side of things. My first business role in the industry, such as it was at Meraki, Cisco Meraki back in the day,
Mhm.
where I was leading their SD-WAN business line. Did that for a few years, and then moved over to Splunk, where I was leading a bunch of their products within observability. And I had been in the areas of observability, security, networking, kind of these tangential areas for the longest time. And across the companies that I had, spent time at, there was one common theme, right? And which was that all of these companies were moving towards a cloud native way of building applications. And as they adopted the cloud to a greater and greater extent, most of the engineers, while they were very happy with the end results, most of the engineers, and in particularly the security teams, were always complaining about the security posture of the cloud, right? How complex it was, how it was absolutely impossible to secure development without introducing um, more and more friction onto developers, how they do things, how their day-to-day workflows, and in particular, the biggest source of friction was how do you control who has access to what, right? Or how do you govern who has access to what sensitive resource? And those resources could be databases, could be EC2 clusters, could be Kubernetes clusters, just about any resource in the cloud. And and that's how the idea for P0 was born, which is that the legacy tools for governing who has access to what in the cloud haven't quite been delivering. And there needed to be a better solution around it. And as we dug deeper, we realized that there were two reasons why legacy solutions were just not built for the cloud. Uh, right? The first reason was that the cloud is extremely complex, and that complexity is driven by an explosion of identities, right?
Mm.
It's not just human users or engineers who can be accessing the cloud, but it could be non-human identities, workloads, machines, whatever you want to call it, right? And the all of these identities can access the cloud in a vast number of ways. There are legacy ways of accessing the cloud, like just SSHing or accessing a database, or you could be accessing one of hundreds or thousands of different entitlements. So how do you bring some kind of order to this chaos?
Mm.
That was the first reason, and the second reason was that legacy tools were just not built keeping the developer audience in mind. And it was these two reasons that we decided that, hey, there needs to be a better way of governing access to the cloud, something that helps secure both human entities as well as workloads and machines without affecting developer workflows. And that's how P0 got started.
Yeah, nice. So when did you actually start and what are you actually doing now then? Talk to us.
Yeah, so the idea took its final shape sometime in early to mid 22.
Yep.
Um, and that's when I also quit my job. I was at Splunk at the time. I started P0 with my co-founder and CTO, who was also who you also used to be at Splunk.
Hmm.
And then we got a third co-founder who was my peer at Meraki, Cisco Meraki's. He had also faced similar challenges in his um, subsequent time at Sengrep. And then that's when we got around and decided that, hey, okay, there needs to be a better way of doing these things. Um, and then we officially we started the company officially, I believe, in October of 22. And then we closed our seed round of funding in November of 22. And that's when we were officially off to the races.
Yeah, I love that. How are you able to not hinder workflows then? How are you able to do that?
So a lot of it comes down. There's no one secret sauce, right? There's no one silver bullet, I should say, right? It's a series of small decisions that we have seen trigger a lot of friction in the day-to-day of developers. One big challenge usually is that any kind of governance usually takes place in a third-party application rather than meeting developers where they are.
Mm.
And the result of a third-party application typically is that you are shifting the onus of governance onto developers by asking them to learn something new. Well, good luck getting enterprise adoption if you're doing that, right? Uh, from the outset, we have decided that governance needs to take place where developers spend their time day in, day out, whether that is command line, whether that is Slack, whether that is Teams, whether that is PagerDuty, whether that is Jira. So we've built lots and lots of workflows in tools where developers spend the vast majority of the time. That's one. Second, governance historically has also meant, okay, let's uh, create an opinionated view of what governance should look like, which means to say that, hey, let's create this process, let's create that process, let's create this group, and then let's force everyone to attest membership to this group. And instead, what we have come up with is said that, listen, if you want to do that, great, we'll help you do that. But if you want to do some kind of governance from the ground up, we'll incorporate a slightly different way of doing things, which is that we'll look at how your developers are using the cloud right now, and we'll morph our process around how they are actually using the cloud without asking them to do something new,
Mm.
right? So all in all, it's a way of governance which tries to meet developers both in their day-to-day as well as their um, the apps that they use
Yeah.
as much as where they already are, instead of asking them to do something radically different.
Yeah. Is it still security that are the buyer then?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Security and governance will always be a CISO concern, right? It just so happens that the day-to-day users are developers,
Mm.
but I've yet to meet a developer that gets up in the morning, excited to work on security, right? So that's the approach that we are taking. We are designing the product from the outset with the developer audience, but we are not selling to the developer
Yeah,
audience.
got it. What about some of the features then? What are you talked about development. What are you guys developing? What are some of the features and
Yeah, so good question. So some of the features that we are developing are obviously extending our platform to workloads and machine identities as well. And taking a back step for a moment, right? Another insight that we've had is that there are, as you pointed out a short while ago, there's a bit of a noise in this market, right? And this noise is predominantly due to, in my opinion, a lot of the complexity in the identity landscape. There are
Mhm.
all of these different identity types. As I said, human identities, cloud identities, enterprise identities, workload identities, machine identities, and every identity has seen a lot of VC money funding different kinds of companies, which all in all it means to say that there are hundreds of companies. Maybe that's a hyperbole, but definitely tens of companies. And it's unrealistic to expect security teams to be stitching together five different companies for the purposes of securing their identity stack, right? Um, and what our thought process is, yes, all of these are legitimate use cases. There's no denying that absolutely machine identities, workloads, human access, just-in-time access, all of these are legitimate use cases which CISOs need, they care about. But at the end of the day, they are looking to secure identity, period. And we have built an abstraction layer that does exactly that for all kinds of identities.
Mhm.
What does that abstraction layer do? First, it does a full inventory of every identity in any system that they want to secure. You want to secure AWS? Great. We'll do a full inventory of every identity, no matter if it's a machine or a person in AWS. You want to secure Okta? Great. We'll do that. You want to secure Google Workspace? Fantastic. We've got a connector for that. You want to secure GCP? Wonderful. Great. We'll provide you with a connector for that. So that's step one. How do you inventory every identity across every system? Next, how do you determine the risk posture of any identity? What do we mean by risk posture? There have been a number of ITDR startups that are doing this to some extent, right? Which is, okay, great, we'll tell you what are the credential risks of any identity. If it's a human user, have they been using MFA? Yes or no? If it's a machine identity, have their keys been rotated? Yes or no? Right? For any identity, what is their level of risk? What is their level of access? Do they have over-provisioned access? Do they have admin credentials? Do they have permissions and roles that haven't been used in a while? Great, yes or no. We'll provide all of that. So that's step two. How do we assess the risk posture of any identity? And the third step is, once we know the inventory, once we know the risk posture, how do we manage the life cycle of access? Or in other words, how do we implement governance for an identity? Uh, and within this, again, depending on various kinds of identities, we have different ways of implementing governance. If it's a human identity, we'll help onboard, offboard, we'll define standing access for an identity, we'll help set up just-in-time access for any identity, human engineer. If it's a workload identity, again, we'll provide workflows to detect who the owner of that identity is. We'll help with key remediation, key rotation. We'll help with trimming down the excess privileges of an identity. Um, all goes to say that we believe that our secret sauce is a layer of abstraction that does three things for a CISO
Mhm.
for any kind of identity: inventory of every identity, assess risk posture, and implement governance or the lifecycle management of access.
Yeah, I love that. It's brilliant. You've got such a different lens of the whole space and have incorporated the product into that lens, which is so unique. So I love that. What I was on your website earlier and I'm going to get this stat up. It was saying that 67% of cloud security incidents feature some IAM misconfiguration. What's your take on that?
Not surprised at all.
Crazy. You're
You
not,
know, it's
yeah.
it's part of, again, what I was talking about, right? Why does this happen? There are so many different kinds of identities floating around, so many different kinds of risks. It's well understood that the entire identity landscape in an enterprise is just a complete one giant mess, right? But that's not it. How do you fix it without disturbing or without affecting developer workflows? That's the other piece of the pie, right? And that's where we come in and we say that, hey, not only will we help you identify all those risks, but we'll also help you set up a governance process without affecting your development teams.
Mm. Yeah, it's great. Podcasts like this are really helpful for people to understand more about it. But how else can we better educate the audience? Because it just seems nuts.
Yeah, it's definitely very interesting.
Mm.
Where do we even get started? There's definitely a lot going on in the space. Its identity seems top in mind for every CISO that I speak to. So it's definitely a very busy place at this point in the cycle.
Mm. Being a just what as a first time founder, right? How has it actually been? So for some of the founders that may be listening, what are some of the harsh realities of actually starting a cybersecurity startup? Because you still look really young and youthful, and what's some of the harsh realities?
I don't think I've encountered any surprises. Put it this way, right? As a startup, you've got to be agile, nimble, but I've known that. I've been early-ish at a bunch of companies. Um, so in both me and my co-founders have been relatively early, not just in companies, but also in products, even at mature companies. So we've known what it's like to create a product from scratch. I don't think it's that different. It's all of that and more on steroids, R- right? But I think the meta point here is that it's not been a surprise, I guess.
Yeah, nice. I was
Yeah,
just
I don't.
curious. I was just
Yeah, I
curious.
don't. It's. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's hard work. It's not for everybody, and yes, the odds of success are minuscule, but the journey is definitely worth everything.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. What about just on the market front? So, what do you expect the next sort of 5 years, 10 years to look like? What do you think the future holds? Because there's a lot of hype around AI at the moment, things like that. What's your take on it?
Uh, as far as the identity space is concerned, right, I am strongly believe that there has to be consolidation. Some platform will emerge, or one of the big guys will acquire a bunch of smallish companies to create an identity platform. But no matter the means, the end result has to be that some kind of a platform emerges. Uh, Gartner will probably start calling it ISPM, just like they coined CSPM and DSPM. The future of cloud security in an identity-centric world has to be ISPM, and that ISPM product will solve all kinds of identity security use cases for an enterprise. And we fully intend to be that platform.
Yeah, brilliant. What's the future for P0? You're going to be going through growth. If anybody's interested in reaching out to you about potential positions, are you hiring at the moment?
Absolutely, we are hiring aggressively, especially for strong engineering and product talent.
Hmm.
So definitely, if there are strong engineers who want to work at the cutting edge, the bleeding edge of security, are especially excited by building um, big performant backend systems at scale, we are hiring and we'd love to talk. Over the next uh, after this spurt of our engineering growth, we'll probably also look to double down on our go-to-market side. So definitely for all the sellers who are super into the security side of things, we'd love to chat when the timing is right.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, we are preparing for our next big phase of growth, and yeah, I mean, so far the markets have been kind to us, but I mean, at the end of the day, make no mistake, we are still only 1% of our way in, right?
Yeah.
If this turns out to be a wild success, it will probably be over the next 10, 15 years rather than over the next 1 or 2 years.
It's a very exciting time, Sashant, and I know you're going to be at Black Hat. So if there's anyone that wants to reach out and meet you there, I know you'll be there as well because this episode will be going out before that. And look, man, I wish you all the best of success for the future, and I'm hoping for big things.
Absolutely. Love to meet you and others at Black Hat. And yeah, I mean, I'm super excited for what the future holds. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely, you're the man. Thanks, Sashant. Thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed today's show, please like and share with your friends and colleagues, as this is really important for the show's reach. If you'd like to be our next guest or are interested in Aspron Search's staffing solutions, please get in touch directly with me or reach out to us via our website www.aspronsearch.com.